Hello, and welcome back to the next part of the Ask Me Anything. The first part was in April, and I know I said it was only going to be a week or so before I did the second part, but I got the edits back for Thunder of War, which is the last Avalon Chronicles book, so that was what I've been doing. So they're done now, so I can do this. I've got the questions here on the screen. Again, if I'm not looking at camera, it's because I'm looking at questions. And at the end of this, I'm going to have a competition, so you can win some hardback copies of A Glimmer of Hope, which is very cool. And in case you weren't aware, there's actually some quite nice art inside the actual book, which is lovely. And I didn't know it was there until a few weeks ago. Anyway, because I'm not very observant with stuff like that. Right, so we'll get straight to the questions, because I don't want this to be an hour and a half recording again. If you get your name wrong, I apologise. Suck at names. Sorry. Right, so, Justin, if you take everything you've learnt through your writing journey so far and go back to your first book, do you see things you would do differently or additions and edits you would make? I would get rid of the sex scenes in Crimes Against Magic, I think, mostly. I'm not a fan of them. They served a purpose. They were what I was trying to do with the character at the time. And the person he'd become. But I didn't really enjoy writing them. And I don't think they're great. I think they're passable sex scenes. They're not dreadful, but I'm not particularly good at writing sex scenes, I don't think. So that's probably the only thing I would change. Any edits I would make, that's the main one. Additions, no. Probably would have written a few more short stories by now, but I just haven't had time to do it. That's the only thing, really. Corky. Okay. Curious as to why Nate's wife changed name from Jane to Mary. Right, okay, I get this a lot. I know, yes, I fucked up. Here's the short answer. Her name is Mary Jane Garrett. And most people called her Mary. And Nate called her Jane, because she preferred to be called Jane, to Mary. And so very few people called her Mary. Very few people, called her Jane. So mostly just Nate that called her Jane. And a couple of his friends. So when it came to writing it in book 7, I thought that I had explained this in Born of Hatred, and I had not. So yes, short answer, fucked up. Long answer, probably the same as the short answer. It's it's my fault. I thought I'd explained that her full name is Mary Jane Garrett, and he called her one name and most people called it the other. But apparently not. So, sorry, it happens. Emma, when is Nate's new book out? I think I know the answer to the question, but I'm going to ask anyway. What will the new Nate series be called, so I can keep an eye out for it? I don't know what it's going to be called. At the moment, I have 2 working titles for the series. One is Rebellion Chronicles, and the other is Godslayer Chronicles. Now, I don't know which one my publisher will like. That's if they even pick the books up, because they're not contracted at all or anything like that yet. The first book working title is Sorcery Reborn. It will be out once the last Avalon book's out, so I'm hoping next year-ish, and that will have Nate as the main character again. Charlie, are there other mythologies that you would like to explore more? Yeah, Norse was the answer there, but the last, not spoilers or anything, but the Avalon Chronicles has a lot of Norse mythology in it later on in the series. So I kind of got my fix of that. And the Norse mythology are going to be a big part of moving forward as well. I'd quite like to do some more Japanese, Chinese, Asian mythology. I quite enjoy doing Mesopotamian as well, so I might do some more of that. Oh, and I would like to do some Native American mythology, but the problem with Native American mythology is that I don't really want to offend anybody unnecessarily. I don't if I want, you know. So I'm not 100% certain what I can and can't kind of mess around with, so to speak. So I kind of left that to one side. It's something that I wouldn't mind looking into later on, but again, I don't want to cause a big unnecessary kerfuffle, because I decided to use mythology that someone or other would deem offensive. I don't mind offending people if there's a point to it. If it's just pointless, if it's just offending people for no reason, then that just seems stupid. Does working for a publisher slow you down? No, not in any way, shape or form does working for a publisher slow me down. It most definitely lets me write more than it did when I was self-published. Yeah, massively. They take all of the marketing stuff. Well, I still have to do marketing stuff, but they take a lot of it. And promo and cover and editing, and they do a lot of that. And then I do bits of it. So yeah, there's yeah, not remotely slowed down. Brad, be honest, is Nate Jason Statham? That's not who I see. I can't remember his name. I'm going to Google it right now whilst you're all here. So I can tell you who I see. Anthony Starr. He was in a TV show called Banshee, and he played Lucas Hood in Banshee. And that in my head, that's who I see as Nate. That kind of character. Jason Statham. Well, yeah, sure, why not? But however you want to see it is fine with me. Susan, what made you consider Harlequin or inspired you to write the first book? I always liked mythology, and I always liked urban fantasy, and I just kind of gravitate towards that. At the time I was reading a lot of urban fantasy, Kelly Armstrong and Butcher, Laurel Hamilton. I stopped reading those a while ago when the story kind of changed direction. So that was kind of where I wanted to write. That was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. So that was kind of where I wanted to. It inspired me was the birth of my first daughter 13 years ago. I was 25, new father for the first time. That's a scary and interesting time. And I figured I can either be one of those people that always talks about wanting to be a writer, or I can actually get off my arse and do it. So I got off my arse and did it, and it took me years to get good enough, basically. But I think it worked out well in the end. Where does Hades rank power-wise among everyone in a 1v1? Hades is top 5. Up there with him would be Abaddon, Arthur, Merlin, and then you've got Persephone and Odin and a couple of others. Akala's probably not too far behind, and Hera certainly up there. So yeah, he's upper echelon. He's top 3 most powerful necromancers on the planet. Him, Abaddon, and Akala. Although there's probably a couple of others that might. So he'd be top 5 necromancers on the planet. So yeah, power level's just off the chart. Yeah, basically. Sean, when are you going to publish that other book? If you mean the Warbringer, which is a science fiction space opera story, I have no idea. It's with my agent, and we'll see what happens with it, is essentially my thought process on it. If another publisher pick it up, then fantastic, and we'll go with that. And if they don't, then we'll see what my options are. But at the moment, I don't know. I really enjoyed writing it. It's a huge amount of fun, right? It's very different to the Harlequin stuff, So I'm hoping someone does pick it up, so I can keep writing it, because I think it's quite a fun story. Sam, what's Mordred's favourite Zelda game? Ooh, probably Ocarina of Time. Probably. I think he probably quite like Wind Waker. But no, I think probably Ocarina of Time. Being able to ride a horse and stuff, I think he would have enjoyed that quite a lot. Also, Sam, on a marginally more serious note, what classic Final Fantasy authors and modern particularly influenced you in your world building? David Gemmell, classic fantasy authors. David Gemmell hugely influenced me as an author. Yeah, Terry Pratchett. I know my books aren't like comedies or anything, but in terms of world building, the Discworld is just a phenomenal piece of world building. So David Gemmell, Terry Pratchett. I probably should have done my homework for this one, shouldn't I? Yeah, probably stuff like that. Robin Hobb, certainly. I think she is a phenomenal author. Who else? Loads, actually. I read quite a lot of comic books, so I read quite a lot of stuff like Spawn and things like that when I was younger. And world building wise and stuff in those comics are quite immense. So I kind of that they probably were involved as well. There's probably loads. I should really answer that question after having sat and really thought about it for some time. That's kind of a failing on my part. I might do another video just about stuff like that. Keith, are the characters based on people you know? No, not really. A couple of them are based on people I know if I've killed them, because my friends are weird and they enjoy me murdering them in my books. So yes, there's a few deaths. Glimmer of Hope has quite a lot of people who I know who I have murdered. Not in real life, if any police people are watching. In the book. People I used to work with and friends of mine who I think it's funny. And they seem to think it's funny too, so that works out well. So yeah, no, but they're not specifically based on people. They'll just have names which my friends would be able to recognise, or do a job that my friends would be able to recognise. But personality-wise, they're not really based on them. What's your opinion on Tolkien? I tried to read Lord of the Rings when I was at school, and I failed because it was not an interesting book to read when I was 13 or 14. I tried again when I was about 18, and I enjoyed them, but I like the films better. Which I'll pause whilst people scream. I just do. I think they get rid of a lot of stuff, which drags the story down. And I mean, it was written at a very different time in a very different way to what you would write now. So yeah, I do. I like Tolkien. I like the world building. I like the characters. I like the story. I'm not such a huge fan of the storytelling, shall we say. I think Hobbit is probably the better book than the Lord of the Rings books. But I massive respect for what he achieved. I mean, he created his own Elven language and stuff. I don't have time to create my own language. I'm not saying that he had time to do it, but I just have patience for it. But yeah, no, I'm not. He's not like my #1 author or anything. Michael, if you could travel back in time to the point where you published the first book, what advice would you give yourself? Chill out, relax, take it easy, enjoy, don't freak. Stop clicking F5 to refresh Amazon. Stuff like that. Just get on with the next one, basically. Yeah, I think that's advice that a lot of people probably should take, you've written a book, it's been published, congratulations, go write another one. Don't freak out, don't stress about the book that you've just published or just written, just go and write something else. It's good advice that I personally found. April, how do you balance your writing time with the marketing you do in the balance is acceptable? I don't do an awful lot of marketing. I do whatever I need to do when my publisher tells me to do it, and I do usually a book blog or something like that when the book comes out. And mostly the other bits of marketing are just me on Facebook and Twitter and writing blogs and doing stuff like this. I don't really do a lot else. Because the best marketing in the world is word of mouth. And if you get people to read your book and enjoy your book and then tell other people that they read your book and enjoy your book, that's better than you spending 20 hours writing huge blog posts for things. I'm pretty certain that very few books get bought because they've just read something you wrote on someone else's blog and they've gone, "Ooh, what an interesting person, I'll go and read that book." They might look at the book, but I don't know if they'll read it. I once got told something by a marketing person that someone looks at a book 3 times before they decide to buy it. I don't know if that's true, but yeah, I think my efforts are better off spent writing and working on the next story than doing huge amounts of marketing. But that said, I still do it. I still get my list of things that I'm going to be doing and need to do. I still have blog tours. I still do stuff like this because I like stuff like this. I think it's good to interact with people. That's why I do blog tours. But I don't want to go too deep into marketing because it's a bit of a rabbit hole. Steve, when you write for a day, how much of what you write makes it into the book? About 90%. Ish. Sometimes it's 50%, sometimes it's 0%. But normally, I've got a pretty good idea where I'm going with the book on whatever I'm writing. I try to write roughly a chapter a day when I'm writing. Sometimes I only make 500 words, sometimes that's 4,000 words, sometimes it's a lot more than that or a lot less than that. So yeah, I do try to make sure that what I'm writing is what I want to actually have in the book. So usually quite a lot of the book that I write when I'm writing will end up in the book. So maybe not quite as high as 90, maybe 75%. Yeah, roughly. John, which one of your books is your favourite audiobook? And why? I have no idea. Ooh. My favourite book is Scorched Shadows that I've written. That's been published so far. It is my favourite book that I've written. It is the book where I got to kind of cut loose a little bit and showed everybody what certain characters can do. So, probably by association, my favourite audiobook of that would be that one. I tend not to listen to the whole audiobook of mine. I tend to listen to bits of it, so I get an idea. But I don't tend to listen to the whole thing, because I've read the whole book by this point probably a dozen times. So, having someone else read it to me afterwards is a bit odd. Steve, if you turn in a book that is 200,000 words and the final product is 150,000 words, what was cut out? How does the editing process work? Okay. That's a lot of words to cut out. Right. My last book, Thunder of War, I handed it into my editor. It was 117,000 words. By the time that was edited, it was 92,000 words. So it dropped out quite a lot of 1,000 words. That is the first book I've ever written where the editing process has removed the number of words and it hasn't gone up. Ever. It needed to be done. There was a lot of stuff in A Thunder of War which I put in because it was, I thought, clever, and but it just slowed the pace of the story down. So it got cut. So normally that is chapters, whole chapters sometimes half a chapter, sometimes just a big chunk of dialogue or exposition or something. But if you're cutting stuff, if it's cutting 50,000 words, you are chopping out chapters at a time. That is, if you write a 4,000 word chapter, my chapters are between 3 and 4,000 words roughly. So you're looking at 10 chapters out of a 50 chapter book that you've just chopped. That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot of words. That would be huge swathes of storyline that you've got rid of, because there's no other way of doing it. You can't get rid of that many words and not be impactful on the storyline. So yeah, normally what happens is, with my editor, she will say to me, cut this. It drags the story down. It makes no sense. It makes no difference if it's in the book or not. If it doesn't make a difference if it's in the book or not, get rid of it. That's the thing. If it doesn't need to be in the book, don't put it in the book. And that's usually the editor, especially the very first editing process that you'll go through with your publisher. They will say to you, this doesn't need to be in the book. This doesn't need to be in the book. This doesn't need to be in the book. Now, you don't have to get rid of them by any stretch of the imagination. You can argue your corner, but 90% of the time they're right, because it's their job to be right. So if my editor Jenny, if she says to me, and she has done in the past, and she will do again in the future, this chapter slows the story down, get rid of it, then I get rid of it. I mean, I'll read through the chapter first. I don't just blindly get rid of it. I'm not an idiot. But I'll read through the chapter first, and if I want to keep any of it, I can see if I can move bits onto other chapters and things like that. But if the whole chapter is just slowing it down, then it's better to get rid of it and try and figure something else out than just to be like, no, my special words, and argue the point. I rarely argue the point on editing. It really does have to matter for the storyline. The only things I've really ever argued were, I was asked to remove a character, didn't want to remove the character because the character was important for the overall story. The character stayed in. And a couple of other words which are British words that I was told the American audiences might have issues with. And the use of the C word. I won't say it because people will get offended. But yeah, no, America don't like that. That I have been asked to not use that in books a few times. Yes, because it does offend some people. So yeah, those are but that's really the editing process. You're told these are the things you need to cut. These are the things you need to expand on. Crack on. And then that goes back, and then they send it back to you again, and they say, well, what? Please do this bit, please do this bit, please do this bit. And then you do those bits, you send it back, and then they say, cool. And then after that, it goes to, now I always get this order wrong, even though I've done this 10 times. Proofreader, no, copy edits first. Copy edits, which are basically just to run through the book and any problems with plot and things like that. Proofreading, which sucks. No, well, line edits first, which suck. Line edits are this comma and this word and this letter and stuff. And yeah, they're hard work. They're really hard work. And then proofreading, which can suck as well, because that's the point where everything's done, you think everything's done, and then someone's read it and gone, that bit screws this bit up. You need to fix this. And then your brain hurts. But yeah, that's basically the editing process. It's a lot more in depth than that when you're doing it, obviously. But yeah. Nick Brown, are you ever coming to America for signing? I'd like to. I don't know, but I would like to. Yes, very much so. Slippery Snake 3212. Okay. Steve, really enjoy your series and have a couple of questions if you don't mind. I like that you have moved away from the alternating between past and present timelines lately to switching between characters in recent books. Is that a consequence of having sufficient character development in the later novels? Is it a purposeful change or none of the above? It was a purposeful change. It was purely because I needed to have Mordred in Scorched Shadows. And I couldn't have Mordred and Nate and Flashbacky Nate. That would have been just hell. So that's why. And then I kind of liked the fact that it was two characters, not one character in past and present. So I'm kind of going to stick with it. So for the next series with the Nates, so forth, hell there. I'll start again. So for the Avalon Chronicles, the first book is Layla and Villain, second book is Layla and Villain, third book is Layla and Mordred again. And then the next series will be Nate and Layla. Yes, Nate and Layla. So yeah, that's how that kind of works. I do like doing the flashbacks. They are a lot of fun, but they're also a lot of work, and there's so many characters now, and there's so much still to do that I can't squeeze it all into one book. Nate now has many different types of magic with all the different combinations, types, and potential subtle uses. How do you balance their use? I just do. I have a spreadsheet and it says who does what. And I try to make sure that all the main characters in the book that have magic can all use it in different ways. Taking into account the idea that Mordred can use their magic and Nate can use their magic, so they can both create shields of air magic. But they can do other things with them as well. And they're sometimes a bit different. And and that's compounded with the Omega magics, because Nate's shadow magic is very different to other people's shadow magic. They do get the shadow realm thing. All of them, all shadow magic users do. But how they use that magic is different. And the same with light and matter and mind. And then pure magic, which is just pure destructive force. So it's fairly straightforward to make sure that what I'm doing is different enough to be interesting for every character, but also I don't get muddled. Nate's fairly straightforward with his magics, so I don't really have too many issues with that yet. That's not to say I won't, but at the moment I haven't. Dark Prophet 1. Is Nate going to be able to use his matter magic same way Boulder does, by making himself stronger, faster and tougher? I know his necromancy allow this, but he doesn't need to have souls to use matter magic. No, probably not, because he's got necromancy, which does that, and he's got shadow magic, which when he takes a person to Shadow Realm, when they feed, it's Wraith. Wraith! That's the word I was thinking of. When the Wraith feeds there, that makes him stronger and faster and more powerful. So probably won't be quite the same. But Boulders is linked to in mythology. He can't be killed except with mistletoe. I'm not planning on having a lot of mistletoe in the book, by the way. But so his matter magic even is very much based around that concept of toughness and skin being unpiercing and all this kind of stuff. Whereas Nate's is very much about seeing faults in things. So he is strong. He can use it to get stronger and stuff, but not anywhere to the degree that Boulder does. His is more about seeing the fault points in items. A bit like there's a character in Inhumans who can do it. but not quite like that for legal reasons, probably. So no, it's not quite like that, but it is a similar thing. He can see things. Everything goes a bit purpley. I think, if I remember correctly. So yeah, so that's kind of where what's happening with that. Right, and that's it. That's all the questions. So competition time. Okay, right. I have 5 copies of these. Very nice, and I'll sign them and everything. I probably won't do a drawing in them because I really do suck at drawing. It's why I write for a living and not draw for a living. So I've got 5 of these, and I'll send them anywhere. I don't care where you live. I'll send you one. How to win one. Right, how to win one is below this video. Leave a comment. And in that comment, I know you need to remember to keep looking at the bloody camera, don't I? And in that comment, I want you to tell me what your favourite line from the book says. Whatever it is, don't care. What's your favourite line, and who said it, preferably. And if you want to subscribe, you can do that. Yeah, okay, sure, cracking. If you want to like the video, you can do that too. Yeah, sure. But to be in with a chance to win, comment and tell me your favourite line in any of the books. Doesn't matter what one. I'm going to leave this here for a couple of weeks because it's half term next week, so I ain't making a video with the kids around. So I'll do it the week after. So probably 2 weeks. Make a video, and I will pick winners. A couple of other things. My author copies of Flicker of Steel, which is the second Avalon book, came through yesterday or the day before. I will be doing a competition for those at some point in the future, but not at this precise moment in time. And oh yeah. Oh yeah, big thank you to everyone who's ever bought my books and supported me. I was recently told by my publisher that I've sold over 500,000 copies of books, and that was, I think, just before Glimmer of Hope came out, so the Harlequin stuff. And A Promise of Wrath hit 50,000 sales the other week. And my publisher sent me a rather nice hamper of food and wine, which my children will find and will devour like hungry locusts. So, so that's very cool. And so thank you very much to everyone who reads the books and likes the books and leaves good reviews. And if you don't leave a review, then consider leaving a review. They're always helpful. And it'd be good to, it's always nice to get more reviews, and if you like the books, that's great. I'm going to cough now. Right, so that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll do another one in a couple of weeks and announce the winners. Thank you. Bye.